Monitoring and detection are key components of a cybersecurity strategy. But it's equally important to focus on resilience, which enables an organization to bounce back more quickly and effectively in the event of a breach.
I think we've all seen the news reports recently, right? There's been financial losses that have been reported, operational downtime that's been reported, and these are not trivial things. But there's something I think that's actually even kind of more important to focus on here, and that's the basic sense of trust that tends to be compromised when a breach occurs. Can you trust the data and systems that you have as integral to your recovery plans? And how do you know you can trust them? Will your business partners and customers have the same trust in you?
Cybersecurity experts warn that attacks are inevitable, and full recovery from an attack could take quite a long time.
It's not all that surprising to me that about a third of respondents reported a fairly quick recovery from a cyber incident. And that's because there are really a pretty wide spectrum of impacts for cyber incidents. There's a broad sense of how long it might take to recover from a cyber incident. Some of those recovery points are fairly trivial. It's a small breach involving, say, a single system, but others can be crippling, particularly those operational downtimes that can result in months-long processes to try to recover from. The impacts that may occur for the business tend to take a little bit longer to recover from than the impacts that may occur at the technology step.
One of the first steps toward becoming more resilient is to create an incident response plan that will guide you during recovery from an attack.
When you're going to go build an incident response plan, an obvious first step is to evaluate your readiness as an organization to respond to an incident. So we see some organizations that have done all of the tabletop work, for example, but they've not fully engaged their executive teams or sometimes even law enforcement in advance. The big takeaway here is that recovery is a team sport, and a well-defined playbook that takes into account systems, data, cyber insurance, legal teams, human touch points, law enforcement, and even customers in some cases, that's more likely to be effective.
In the event of a breach, some common strategies and tools can help to make your recovery quicker and more successful.
With respect to tooling in an environment, everything from SIEM tools to, say, MDR is important in preparation. I would also say don't discount data. The whole question of whether or not you can trust your data in a recovery scenario is intrinsically important to validation and potentially restoration in the event of a breach and an incident. And I think finally, I'd advise organizations to take a really hard look at their Active Directory environment. What are your recovery plans for AD?
Ultimately, any vulnerability poses a risk not only to your data and digital assets, but to your organization as a whole. CDW research shows that for more than 40% of respondents who have experienced a recent breach, the cost was between $1 and $10 million.
Cyber risk is business risk. And naturally flowing down from that means you have to gather a lot of stakeholders as part of cyber resilience and recovery. You have to work with your organization holistically to be ultimately successful, preventing or responding to cyber attacks.